The tires screeched as the SUV careened onto the curb, crushing Julie's meticulously placed solar-powered lights one by one. Gritting her teeth, she watched helplessly as the neighborhood's so-called HOA queen stomped out, screaming obscenities. But this time, Julie had a plan. A plan that would make sure her lights stayed standing and teach the HOA tyrant a lesson she'd never forget. Julie glared as the black SUV lurched to a stop, spewing gravel. Marching over, she confronted the driver, Brenda, the neighborhood's self-appointed HOA queen. "This is the third time this month," Julie shouted. "You completely destroyed my new solar lights." Brenda sneered, flipping her perfectly coiffed hair. "Those tacky things don't fit the aesthetic of our community. As head of the HOA, I have the right to ensure." "The right?" Julie interrupted, her voice trembling with rage. "You have no right to destroy my property. These lights were a gift from my grandmother." Brenda scoffed. "Well, then she clearly has no taste. Now move before I run them over again." Julie's fists clenched as Brenda climbed back into her gas-guzzling SUV. This wasn't the first time the HOA tyrant had flexed her authority at Julie's expense. Enough was enough. That night, Julie pored over catalogs, her mind racing. The next morning, she placed a hefty order, a mischievous grin spreading across her face. A week later, as Brenda's SUV approached, Julie watched eagerly. The tires hit the curb with a thud, but this time, the lights stood firm, industrial-grade, heavy-duty fixtures that could withstand a monster truck rally. Brenda's face twisted in shock as she stomped out of her vehicle. "What is the meaning of this?" she shrieked. Julie folded her arms, a smug smile on her lips. "Oh, these. Just some new lights I installed. Ones that are a bit more durable." "Durable," Brenda sputtered. "They're hideous. An eyesore. I demand you remove them at once." "Remove them." Julie feigned innocence. "But Brenda, as head of the HOA, I thought you'd appreciate how well they fit the aesthetic of our community." Brenda's face reddened. "This is unacceptable. I'll have you fined, or even." "Or even what?" Julie interrupted coolly. "You'll run them over again. Good luck with that." She gestured to the thick, steel-reinforced lights. "These babies can take a beating." Brenda opened and closed her mouth, lost for words. Julie savored the moment, relishing the HOA queen's discomfort. "You can't do this," Brenda finally spat. "I'll see to it that you're removed from the HOA." Julie shrugged. "Go ahead and try. In the meantime, I'd be careful where you park that gas-guzzling monster of yours. Wouldn't want anything unfortunate to happen to it." Brenda's eyes narrowed, but she stomped back to her SUV, defeated. As she drove off, Julie couldn't help but laugh. The neighborhood's self-appointed tyrant had just met her match, and this was only the beginning. The next HOA meeting was a battlefield. Brenda stormed in, her minions in tow, and immediately launched into a tirade about Julie's unsightly new lights. "This is an outrage," she spewed. "They're ruining the entire aesthetic of our beautiful community." Julie sat calmly, letting Brenda's ranting wash over her. When the HOA queen finally paused for breath, Julie stood. "With all due respect, Brenda, the lights are perfectly within HOA regulations. They're well-maintained, energy-efficient, and improve visibility on our street." She fixed Brenda with a steady gaze. "And they happen to be impervious to your SUV's tires." Brenda's nostrils flared. "Impervious? We'll see about that." She turned to the other HOA members. "I motioned to have those lights removed immediately." Several hands tentatively raised, but Julie cut in. "Actually, I'd like to propose a compromise." She reached into her bag, pulling out a thick binder. "I've researched ways we can update our community's lighting to be more eco-friendly and aesthetically pleasing." The other members murmured in surprise, shooting Brenda uneasy glances. Julie seized the opportunity. My plan involves replacing all the streetlights with energy-efficient LED fixtures. It'll save the HOA money on electricity and maintenance, and make our neighborhood greener. She flipped open the binder, revealing detailed diagrams and cost estimates. All I ask is that you allow me to keep my personal lights for now. Brenda's eyes narrowed. And why should we trust you? This is clearly just a ploy to keep those hideous fixtures. Julie shook her head. On the contrary, Brenda, this is about more than just my lights. It's about making our community a better place for everyone. She paused, fixing Brenda with a pointed stare. Unless, of course, you have a problem with going green and saving money. The other HOA members shifted uncomfortably. Brenda glared at Julie, but the residents' murmurs of approval were undeniable. Realizing she was outnumbered, the HOA queen reluctantly agreed to Julie's proposal. As the meeting adjourned, Julie caught Brenda's eye, a triumphant smile on her lips. The battle had been won, but she knew the war was far from over. Over the next few weeks, Julie's lighting plan took shape. Crews worked tirelessly to install the new LED streetlights, their warm glow gradually replacing the old, harsh fixtures. Brenda scowled as she watched from her window, her fury barely contained. One evening, as Julie was returning home, she noticed Brenda's SUV parked dangerously close to her industrial-grade lights. A mischievous idea began to form. The next morning, Julie emerged from her house to find Brenda storming towards her, face contorted with rage. "What did you do?" the HOA queen seethed. Julie feigned innocence. "I'm afraid I don't know what you mean, Brenda." "Don't play dumb with me," Brenda spat. "My car won't start, and I know it's because of those monstrosities you call lights." Julie shrugged. That's odd. Maybe the battery died." "The battery?" Brenda scoffed. "Don't give me that. I had it checked just last week." Her eyes narrowed. "You tampered with it, didn't you?" Julie raised her hands in mock surrender. Now, Brenda, let's not make any accusations. After all, these lights are designed to withstand all sorts of abuse." She gestured to the sturdy fixtures. "Perhaps your car simply got a little too close." Brenda's face reddened. "This is unacceptable. I demand you replace my battery at once." "Replace your battery?" Julie repeated, feigning confusion. "But Brenda, as head of the HOA, I thought you'd appreciate the importance of personal responsibility." She tusked sympathetically. "You know, leaving your car parked so close to my lights, after all the warnings I've given you." Brenda's jaw worked furiously, but no words came out. With a frustrated growl, she stomped back to her useless SUV, yanking out her phone to call for a tow truck. Julie watched, a satisfied smile on her face. Brenda may have been the HOA queen, but she was no match for Julie's ingenious plan. The more the tyrant lashed out, the more she would find herself tangled in the web of consequences. As the tow truck arrived, Brenda shot Julie a venomous glare. Julie simply waved, relishing the sweet taste of victory. The battle lines had been drawn, and she had no intention of surrendering. The next HOA meeting was a powder keg waiting to explode. Brenda stormed in, her face a mask of fury, and immediately demanded the floor. "This is an outrage," she screeched. "That woman has tampered with my vehicle, and I won't stand for it." The other members exchanged uneasy glances, unsure of how to respond. Julie sat calmly, her gaze unwavering. "Brenda, please, let's all try to remain calm and discuss this rationally," one of the HOA members, Sheila, interjected. Brenda whirled on her. "Rationally? How can I be rational when that troublemaker has sabotaged my car?" She pointed an accusatory finger at Julie. "I demand she be fined or even removed from the HOA altogether." Julie raised a hand. "If I may, I have a simple solution to this problem." Brenda's eyes narrowed. "And what, pray tell, is that? Well, Brenda, it's quite simple, really. Julie began, her tone measured and calm. All you have to do is park your car a safe distance from my lights. That way, there's no risk of any unfortunate incidents. Brenda scoffed. You expect me to change my parking habits because of your ridiculous lights? Absolutely not. Now, Brenda, Julie soothed. As head of the HOA, I'm sure you understand the importance of setting a good example for the rest of the community. Wouldn't it be best if we all worked together to keep our neighborhood safe and beautiful? The other members murmured in agreement, and Brenda's face twisted in fury. She glared at Julie, her knuckles turning white as she gripped the edge of the table. This isn't over, she hissed through clenched teeth. Mark my words, I will find a way to get rid of those eyesores, once and for all. Julie simply smiled, unfazed by the HOA queen's threat. I'm listening, Brenda. But I can assure you, my lights aren't going anywhere. As the meeting adjourned, Julie watched Brenda stomp out, her minions scurrying behind her. The battle lines had been drawn, and she knew the war was far from over. But for now, she savored the small victory, knowing that Brenda's rage would only fuel her determination to keep those lights standing tall. In the days that followed, Brenda's hostility towards Julie only seemed to escalate. She glared at her from across the street, muttering under her breath, and made snide comments about the eyesore of Julie's lights whenever they crossed paths. But Julie remained unfazed, focused on her plan to transform the neighborhood's lighting. The new LED streetlights were a hit, and the HOA members praised her for the energy savings and improved visibility. One afternoon, as Julie was tending to her garden, she noticed a shadowy figure lurking near her prized lights. Squinting, she recognized the familiar shape of Brenda's SUV. Gripping her gardening tools, Julie hurried over, heart pounding. Brenda, what do you think you're doing? The HOA queen spun around, her eyes gleaming with malice. Why, just admiring your lovely lights, Julie, she purred. Julie's eyes narrowed. I doubt that. If you so much as touch them. Touch them. Brenda interrupted, a wicked grin spreading across her face. Oh no, dear Julie. I have something much more permanent in mind. Before Julie could react, Brenda pulled a can of black spray paint from behind her back, unleashing a torrent of dark pigment all over the industrial-grade fixtures. No, Julie cried, rushing forward in a futile attempt to stop her. Brenda cackled, continuing her vandalism. There, now they match the rest of your tacky decor. Julie watched in horror as her beloved lights were desecrated, her heart sinking. She had poured her heart and soul into making this neighborhood a better place, and Brenda had just destroyed it all. As Brenda tossed the empty can aside, her gaze locked with Julie's. That's what you get for trying to defy me, you meddlesome bitch. Now remove those eyesores, or I'll make sure you regret the day you ever set foot in this community. With that, she turned and stomped back to her SUV, leaving Julie standing amidst the ruined lights, tears of fury and frustration streaming down her face. The war had just taken a brutal turn, and Julie knew she had to regroup. Brenda had crossed a line, and this time, there would be no mercy. The next HOA meeting was a tense affair, with all eyes on Julie and Brenda. The latter strutted in, a triumphant smirk on her face, while Julie sat quietly, her jaw set with determination. When the meeting began, Brenda was the first to speak up. As you all know, there's been an incident with Julie's lights. She paused, her gaze sweeping the room. I'm here to demand that those eyesores be removed immediately. Julie raised her hand. If I may, I have something to share with the group. Brenda's eyes narrowed, but she nodded reluctantly. Julie stood, her voice calm and measured. As you can see, my lights have been vandalized. She gestured to the black street fixtures, and I'm here to tell you that I won't stand for it. A murmur of surprise rippled through the crowd, and Brenda's smug expression faltered. I've invested a significant amount of time and money into making our community more energy efficient and visually appealing, Julie continued. And I refuse to let Brenda's petty vendetta undo all that hard work. Brenda opened her mouth to protest, but Julie held up a hand. Now, I know some of you may be wondering why I don't simply remove the lights and be done with it. Well, the truth is, I've already submitted a formal request to the city to have them officially designated as historical landmarks. The room erupted in a chorus of gasps and murmurs, and Brenda's face turned a deep shade of crimson. Historical landmarks? She sputtered. You can't be serious. Julie nodded, a small smile playing on her lips. Oh, but I am. You see, these lights were a gift from my grandmother, who installed them herself back in the 1950s. They're a beloved part of our community's history, and I intend to protect them. Brenda opened and closed her mouth, at a loss for words. The other HOA members exchanged uneasy glances, realizing the gravity of the situation. This is outrageous. Brenda finally managed. You can't just. I can, and I will, Julie interrupted, her voice firm. And if you try to remove these lights, or continue your campaign of harassment and vandalism, I'll be sure to have you brought up on charges. Brenda's face twisted with fury, but she knew she was cornered. With a frustrated huff, she sat back down, glaring daggers at Julie. The meeting adjourned in a tense silence, and as Julie gathered her things, she caught Brenda's eye. The message was clear. The war was far from over, but this round had gone to Julie. In the weeks that followed, Brenda's rage only seemed to intensify. She glared at Julie from her SUV, muttering under her breath, and made snide comments about the eyesore whenever they crossed paths. But Julie remained steadfast, knowing that her lights were now protected by the city's historical designation. Brenda's attempts to have them removed through the HOA were met with fierce resistance from the other members, who had grown to appreciate the fixture's unique charm and the community's energy savings. One evening, as Julie was returning home, she noticed a strange glow emanating from her front yard. Quickening her pace, she rounded the corner and gasped in horror. Her beloved lights had been set ablaze, the industrial-grade fixtures melting under the intense heat. Billowing smoke obscured her vision, and the acrid stench of burning plastic stung her nostrils. Trembling with rage, Julie rushed to the scene, desperately trying to extinguish the flames. But it was too late. The damage was done, and her once proud lights lay in a smoldering heap. Julie whirled around, her eyes scanning the darkness for any sign of the culprit. And there, peering from behind a tree, she caught a glimpse of Brenda's silhouette, the glow of a cigarette, lighter still smoldering in her hand. With a guttural scream, Julie charged towards her, her hands balled into fists. You, she cried. How dare you? Brenda's eyes widened in alarm, and she quickly backpedaled, the lighter slipping from her grasp. I don't know what you're talking about, she stammered. Don't play innocent with me, you vile witch. Julie spat, her voice shaking with fury. I saw you. You did this, didn't you? Brenda's face contorted with panic, and she turned to flee, but Julie was too fast. She tackled the HOA queen to the ground, pinning her in place. You're going to pay for this, Julie growled, her knuckles whitening. I swear, I'll... Julie, stop! A voice rang out, and she felt a firm hand on her shoulder. It was her neighbor, Sheila, her face etched with concern. Let the police handle this. Julie hesitated, her chest heaving, then slowly released her grip on Brenda. The HOA queen scrambled to her feet, her hair disheveled and her makeup smeared, and fled to her SUV, peeling out of the driveway in a cloud of dust. As the wail of sirens pierced the night, Julie stood amidst the charred remains of her lights, her heart heavy with grief and rage. She had been pushed too far, and this time there would be no mercy. The police investigation into the arson was thorough, and it didn't take long for the evidence to point squarely at Brenda. Eyewitness accounts, Security camera footage and the lingering scent of lighter fluid on her clothes sealed her fate. As the news of Brenda's arrest spread through the neighborhood, a wave of relief and satisfaction washed over Julie and the other residents. The HOA Queen's reign of terror had finally come to an end. At the sentencing hearing, Julie stood before the judge, her voice unwavering as she recounted the years of harassment and destruction she had endured at Brenda's hands. The judge listened intently, his brow furrowed with empathy, and in the end, he handed down a harsh sentence. 2 years in prison for Brenda, along with a hefty fine and a lifetime ban from the HOA. As Brenda was led away in handcuffs, Julie felt a sense of closure wash over her. The battle had been long and arduous, but in the end, justice had prevailed. She turned to the gathered neighbors, a proud smile on her face. "Thank you all for your support and understanding," she said. "I know this has been a difficult time, but I'm grateful we were able to come together and put an end to Brenda's reign of terror." The crowd erupted in cheers and applause, and Julie basked in the moment, her eyes glistening with unshed tears. She had fought for her community, and she had won. In the aftermath, Julie set to work rebuilding her beloved lights, determined to restore them to their former glory. With the help of her neighbors, she carefully cleaned and repaired the fixtures, and within a few weeks, the warm glow of the industrial-grade lamps once again illuminated the neighborhood. As Julie stood back and admired her handiwork, she couldn't help but feel a sense of pride and accomplishment. She had faced down the HOA Queen and emerged victorious, and in the process, she had strengthened the bonds of her community. From that day on, the neighborhood's lights stood as a symbol of resilience, unity, and the power of standing up for what's right. And whenever Julie caught sight of them, she couldn't help but smile, knowing that she had won the ultimate battle against the tyranny of the HOA.